My name is Jissel Muir. I'm one of the career advocates at the Engineering Center. My major is environmental engineering, but I handle all kinds of engineering principles when it comes to careers. So I'm going to go through the motions of this PowerPoint. All right, so for the first one, I think, okay, there, I'll just click there. So I want to go over the list of career readiness competencies that usually employers are looking for and the way that they're rated from top to bottom. Mostly what they're looking for is that you are a critical thinker, you can handle problem solving, someone who's professional and has great work ethic, as well as can work in the team. You want to have good oral and written communication skills and handle technology aspects as best as possible, since now everything's digital, and also someone who can act up and be a leader at times, and career management, which could also include your time management or how you manage your projects. And then the last one that has been recently added is the global intercultural fluency aspect. And being a student from Florida International University sometimes can check that box, but hopefully you are doing your best to really include yourself in the community and get to know multiple cultures. And if you can be bilingual or practice your foreign languages, that always helps. So next slide basically defines these career readiness competencies. And I'm going to try to just skip over these because it might be more time consuming and everyone can kind of get a glimpse of what it is. So the following slides are a continuation, and then we go into the importance of the conference and career fair. So definitely it's a great place to meet employers, especially if it's a conference center. It's a very convenient location, and now having virtual platforms that are great for the style of event that you're focusing on. It could be really accommodating to you and the employer, and it's a great place to network with representatives from a variety of companies. You can also make a great first impression once you get to meet those company contacts. Usually recruiters are the first, and they tend to work with HR. And then there's also the opportunity to explore career and internship options. So why do employers go to conferences and fairs? Usually it's to attract top-notch candidates and advertise their organization or company to prospective candidates, as well as promoting public awareness and providing career information. This can help them identify potential candidates and make first impressions. So before the conference or fair starts, you want to have some kind of plan, strategy, a resume, do your research, know what to wear, and practice. So that means if you're looking forward to having an interview, maybe have a mock interview beforehand, and pack your bag and know exactly which days you're going to wear what outfits, so you don't run short of appropriate wear. And make sure you look professional and have all your documents with you that you might want to share. Have multiple resumes made. Maybe print them out on actual resume paper, but now that everything has gone virtual, unless you're going to a hybrid event, I would suggest, of course, like have your resumes neatly organized in a folder digitally, so you know where to look for them when you have to share them with the person, and not have to like make them wait on it. And do your research really into the company that you're going to be applying towards. And if anything, apply in advance so that when you get the chance to speak to the recruiter, you're already telling them like, this is what I'm interested in, exactly this job title in this department. And I've maybe looked into so-and-so person, because sometimes it could be a program where you're under a mentor or a professor, and you want to know who you're going to be working for. So have a strategy and create that winning resume. Start with having a one-page paper, make it concise, easy to read, be consistent in the formatting. So you want to make sure that your font is usually Times New Roman, Calibri, whatever is, like manageable for them to read. When it comes to font size, 10 to 12 is usually good. So we don't want them to hurt their eyes either. And then if the margins are too difficult for the text to actually fit on one page, you might have to change them up. So try not to use a template for that reason, so that you can actually make adjustments and edit the format that the paper will have to fit everything onto that page. And also don't overcrowd it. You want to be like brief and specific in a sense. So that's why using bullets could be helpful, making sure you're getting straight into your description sentences by using action verbs at the beginning. And you'll notice those are the words like process, maintain, recognize, verified, ensured, created, awarded, and so and so. So we do have a list of those verbs on our handouts and resources on our website, and I can share that with you guys later. Also, look for keywords within the job description that match up to you. So if you see names of software program applications that you have worked with before, or if it's a type of skill you're going to be applying, and if they're also talking about maybe like some kind of activity, you want to make sure those keywords are apparent somewhere in your resume, and don't just copy and paste what you see in the job description to what you're going to advertise yourself as, because they'll know. And then make sure you avoid using those personal pronouns so that it sounds more professional. If you must have a second page, it's not preferable, but it can be done. And if anything, it should be for those who are into like their master's programs or PhD, because by then they've accumulated a lot of accomplishments, maybe publications and research that they need to talk about. So if you're an undergrad student, hopefully you can keep it to the one page. And I've seen it be done even with a lot of work history, so it's definitely doable. And make sure that it's just, you know, a concrete, objective, or professional summary to start it strong, and highlight those relevant experiences, whether they're academic, professional, or like involvements, research projects. They could be personal projects or academic projects from courses you've taken, or competition-based projects as well. You can also mention accomplishments, and not just the responsibilities, but focus on like what transferable skills you use. And this goes as well for like if you have maybe a job that you wouldn't consider like very technical or professional, but it is job experience, you could have transferable skills from that experience. So whether it was just conflict resolution because you had to work with customers coming in angry, or you know, just communication with different levels of management, that's all very understandable. And then keywords and action verbs, like we mentioned earlier, and bringing in multiple copies of your resume, because also if you're doing different applications, you don't want to have the same resume for each. It's okay to have one generic resume to help you get started on like what you're bound to say overall, because your experience doesn't really change. But the way that you change or tailor that resume for each application could be different depending on the keywords from the job description that they may be looking for. And it could also be different depending on like what you read in the objective, mostly because the objective is where you can be a little bit more flexible with how you word things. So some of the attributes that employers seek on candidates' resumes tend to be those competencies that we saw earlier. And we see that problem solving has been like on the top chart, and then communication followed with leadership, the work ethic, and all that. Additional ones here in their descending order of importance in a sense. And as you guys can see, you should have, in a sense, like all these different skills, and everyone has maybe a different forte on one or the other. And hopefully they do fit alongside of like the order that they're looking for, but don't kind of put you down if maybe you have better computer skills and not as much like leadership or something like that. The idea is to get the experience and work on all those aspects. So this here says job outlook for 2018 from the National Association of Colleges and Employers at a 5-point scale, where 1 was no influence at all, 2 was not much influence, 3 was somewhat of an influence, 4 very much influence, and 5 extreme influence. And they use this in order to rank basically different attributes that can influence your employability. So if you've had an internship or some kind of experience in the industry, that was probably the most highly ranked throughout the years from 2016 to 2018. And then you'll see like having a major maybe that is closest to what they're looking for came in usually like second, and then maybe having held leadership positions or general work experience. And then again, it goes in a descending order. So if you've had no work experience, maybe that might also influence it right under the idea of having some kind of experience. And GPA, you can see that it's like starting to also be somewhere in between the like whether it's necessary or not necessary range, like how influential it is. Some people have been leading more into valuing experience over GPAs, and just like standardized testing have kind of gone out the window for some places. And then we see also like which schools you've attended, what kind of volunteer work you've done, if you speak those foreign languages, or if you studied abroad, as well as having extracurricular activities, that might be lower in their chart. But employers tend to rate those essential needs for the career readiness competencies in that order, where critical thinking is probably like the biggest thing, being able to work in a team as well, because usually there's multiple people in the office. So even if you have individual tasks you have to take care of, it's usually going to be in collaboration. And you know, maintaining professionalism, having some work ethic. You don't want to be showing up late all the time. You want to get things done, be held accountable, and having that oral and written communication, just so that you can make sure you're not leaving things in the air and creating confusion in your workplace, as well as possibly, you know, standing up every now and then and being a leader, having that digital technology in your pocket when you need it, because you will have to use other programs that aren't going to be Word, PowerPoint, and all that. But here and there, you might have to do like design work or programming and etc. So you can see the last ones are really like career management and global multicultural fluency. So the next ones have another like weighted average rating list, and it continues. So I'm gonna skip over that. And then the research companies attending conference fair. This slide is basically the idea that you should have a list of companies that you're interested in, identify those top companies, do your research by knowing what their goals, mission, vision are, and know their culture, as well as the structure or departments that they have. So they have multiple offices and departments, maybe who's spearheading them and what do they value. And usually you'll find that in their like homepage, and then they should have an external career site. So you should be able to find that, as well as finding them on Handshake if you haven't found them like otherwise, but connecting with them on LinkedIn might help. So searching for those career opportunities and reflecting on your own personal goals, just to be able to help you narrow down what you are trying to achieve. And do not limit your options. So for example, if they mention like, are you open to relocation? You should like consider that, like, will you see yourself being out of state? And usually I try to advise you guys to stay open to this, because you never know. But be honest with them, because you don't want to maybe take a place of someone else that could be doing the job for them and could want to attend even more than you, in a sense. So the next thing is like setting up a conference profile and available positions. So creating a profile for yourself and filling out all the required fields, as well as uploading your resume to that platform, browsing for positions available posted on the conference website, and applying for those relevant jobs with that tailored resume. And if they ask for a cover letter, do it. If the cover letter is optional, still do it, because anything that's optional is best to just take it as a requirement, because sometimes that just means it shows how much more ambitious you are, or more interested you could be. So it's gonna make you stand out. And make note of which positions you've applied for, when, which documents you used. And to do this, maybe create either on your drive, like one folder for jobs, and then multiple folders for the different companies, and within each company, maybe departments, and so, like branch it out so that you can clearly see where you applied and when you did so, and what you shared with them. So that if you get a call back, get that interview, you know what they're gonna bring back up. And it's not gonna, you know, catch you by surprise when they ask you specific questions about something you told them. You also don't wanna lie. So make sure that you print and save all those descriptions, and in a sense, like practice off of that information, so that it comes easier to share with them, you know, this is what I did. And then they'll know like, okay, this person definitely knows what they're talking about. And set yourself up with like a conference agenda. Download the agenda that they give you. There's usually an itinerary on their website, and plan how you're gonna handle the entire conference. Like each hour, are you gonna take breaks here and there? Even if it's virtual, you have to take a moment for yourself to go to the bathroom, to you know, grab some food, have a snack. You don't wanna like have to run out of maybe an event or activity, because they'll still see that in a sense. And if you have heard back from scheduled interviews, make sure to note the times or the days, the person who called you or contacted you or you spoke to, and also take note of like what kind of conversation did you have with them. Like this could also be in terms of like when you first spoke to them, even before they called you back. When you're at a fair or an interview, you wanna afterwards, when you walk away from them, take a note of what you spoke about and what stood out, so that when you hear back from them, or when you go to follow up and send them an email or just talk to them ever again, you can have kind of like an attention grabber, like, oh, you know, you mentioned this before and I was really interested in so and so. And it really helps them feel like, okay, they really thought that was like a special moment and something stood out for them and they're really interested, and they took the time to consider like the things I said, and it, you know, it stayed with them. So they want to make sure, you know, they've resonated with you. And then be strategic with each workshop, as well as the info sessions, anything that you do within, like this is more so for like in person, like hospitality suites. I don't know if virtual platforms are doing something like that, where it's like a big room, basically, where everyone talks and meets each other. But one day we will return to that. So you should also just know, like, be strategic the way that you walk in, present yourself. What are you wearing? What are you holding in your hands? Is it a folder? Is it a big backpack? Like, do you look like you have your, stuff together? And have a plan for how you're going to approach the employer's booth. Are you going to, try to shake their hand, or just say, hi, my name is so-and-so, and this is my resume. Do you have a minute to talk to me about so-and-so, and just start the conversation like any other, but being professional, of course. So get comfortable with the technology that you're going to be using for these virtual platforms. Download and learn the app if it's an app, or just make sure you know your way around, like maybe the buttons or what the screen is going to look like, that your camera settings are correct, your audio and your mic settings work. Have some maybe Zoom trainings if you need it. If you haven't done like Zoom breakout rooms, for example, maybe try to do that with a friend or with another group before you go into that kind of experience, so you know how to go in and out of them. And it's simple, like buttons basically, but sometimes you don't know where to find them and it could be embarrassing. And then have practice interviews, record them, and request feedback. So if you don't want to do this with a friend, because maybe your friend wants to tell you like you're going to do great, or your parent, try to do it with one of our career coaches, because they're going to tell you, what you need to do. And you could schedule that one-on-one, and it's also going to be virtually via Zoom, if anything, with Joseph Juton, which is like our main career coach at EC. If you guys haven't already met him, I highly suggest you go on Handshake and check out his availability. And he might be really busy in these upcoming weeks because of the fair. But if you also just email him, maybe he can get you with one of us, because there are career advocates under the career coaches who can also be giving you advice like right now. So make sure you are looking your best by starting with lighting. You want to have balanced lighting in your room, meaning that your face can be seen, not in the dark. You can maybe just adjust your camera in order to do this, and test the video and camera settings before the call. Check your surroundings, the brightness, the angle of the hair. Ladies, you need to powder your nose. You don't want to have to do any of the awkward stuff on camera. So just make sure that once you sit down, everything's good. And also check the brightness, and make sure that you have enough like space around you, so it doesn't look like you're like on the camera or crowded in the room. Whatever you need to do to make yourself also comfortable. And this can also mean that you can be using natural light from a window, and avoid having like noises in the background. Don't do this like in a public place. Try to do this from home. Even if it has to be like a quiet spot and you don't have like good space in your room, maybe like clear out your closet, or clear out like a side of your room where there's like a blank wall, and try to set yourself up there. And just something that is going to be more of a neutral background too. And then the idea of having like enough space in the screen so it doesn't look like you're overcrowding it, not leaning in too much, smiling and nodding to show that you're listening. Avoid jewelry that makes noise or can be visually distracting. So the head and the shoulders should be visible, and you could use headphones if it helps prevent like weird echoes, or it's like noise canceling. And if you're using multiple monitors, make sure that the one that is facing you is, placed directly in front of you. If you're having to use a phone, you could just stack it up on top of some books or something to elevate it and make it, be at eye level. Make sure that you have the resume that you're going to talk about, something to write notes if necessary, your headphones there, and maybe a glass of water might help too. And during that career fair, you want to make sure you're making eye contact into the camera, right? And greeting people properly, and just having maybe like, I think this would be like your business card, but in this case, like all those documents that you can't have physically there, just make sure you know what contacts you're going to be giving them, use a proper email and phone number that you will be available to, that you check regularly. And if you haven't already set up your voicemail box, I feel like we don't talk about this normally, but if you want them to leave a voicemail message, set up your voicemail box in case you do get a call from an interviewer or recruiter, so that you don't miss it, and give them a call back as soon as you can. Make sure it's not too late at night too, just in case, and try to be professional. Some common nonverbal mistakes that could be made during job interviews is like not making enough eye contact, which is why that's also very important on the camera, just to not make it awkward, because it's all about body language, and not like playing with your hair or playing with your jewelry. Like, you don't want to be fiddling or fidgeting with anything, so that you don't look nervous. Even if you are, like, maybe just try to keep your hands like to your sides, below, you know, your waist or below your desk, or hold on to something beside you if you can. And then make sure you're like smiling and not looking like, you know, you're stressing about anything. It's not any reason to stress. You just have to do the best you can and show up, and that can make the whole, you know, difference. So we want to make sure that you're making the best first impressions, and that could be even the way that you dress, act, walk, talk, follow your voice, your grammar, your confidence, which is why it's really important to practice so that your confidence is there, so that maybe you have like a way of saying something but it doesn't make grammatical sense, you've kind of adjusted what you're going to say before you say it, and then making sure that, you know, the audio and the camera is all good. Okay, so I know it's a lot of information, but on top of this, you should have some kind of like elevator pitch, because this is great when you're introducing yourself, or even when you just like start the session. So you can use this usually when you're networking prior to the actual job search, or at the career fair, like as simple as when they tell you to tell me about yourself, you're gonna have to answer, and usually that could also happen at the job interview, and it's a great place to throw in that elevator pitch. So some of the key components is to make it short, simple, to the point, 30 seconds, max 2 minutes, talk about your education or academic background, which now that you're in college, hopefully focus on your college experience. If you have something really important from high school, you could mention it, that's cool too. But after your freshman or sophomore year, high school information shouldn't even be on your resume, because it's like basically an obvious step that you've had to take in order to get to college. So by then university is like the highlight. And then you want to also mention relevant work experience, as well as that professional background, your current status. So if you're working, if you have an internship, if you're available, you know, or you're just a student, full-time, part-time, all that good stuff. And mentioning some transferable skills, what you have to offer, you know, that could also be your interests right there. And especially if they're industry specific interests, you would mention them. And then the employment opportunities you're seeking. So what job it is that you're hoping to attain and why you're interested in the company, right? So hopefully you've done your research, and make sure to start with your name. That is the most important factor, right? So the elevator pitch, here are some ideas if you guys want it. I will be sharing this presentation with you at the end, so we could skip over it, but basically who you are, what do you offer, what field or industry you're interested in, what need or issue does the employer face, and what problem can be solved, what are the main contributions that you can make, and what benefits can employers derive from those skills based on your proven accomplishments, and end with a question to invoke further conversation. What do you think about so and so? So this could be like maybe not a controversial topic like politics or something like that. That might be too much, but maybe what do you think about something relevant that's happening, like maybe a current event that you've heard about that deals with, you know, biomedical engineer. That'd be great. And then what's it to take to get an interview for this internship opportunity? What opportunities does your company have available? Those are usually the best questions, because you want to make sure that you're furthering, you know, your possibility of putting your foot into the door. So sometimes I've been told like, oh, and with the question of like, what else can I do to make sure, you know, that I get a call back? But that could be sometimes too straightforward. So you also don't want to be like too direct. And so these questions are a little like of a subtle way to ask them how to continue, you know, trying to get recruited. And then make sure you're using past, present, and future correctly, and thinking about how that's going to affect you. So the next steps is to demonstrate the knowledge about the company by asking questions about openings, so job openings that is, and watch for cues, maintain eye contact, briefly state your qualifications, and show enthusiasm, as well as be confident. You guys got this. So really demonstrate those interpersonal skills by showing your professionalism and introducing yourself with that firm handshake. And this is like back in the day when we used to touch hands. Sorry, we can't do that no more. And then speak clearly and concisely. Answer your questions, and make sure that like if you don't understand the question, ask them to maybe rephrase it. Like that's perfectly fine too. and then have your resume with you and easily accessible. And if you blank out and you feel like that's only gonna show like a lack of the confidence, just tell them like, one moment, let me maybe look at your resume, and then tell them like, I just wanted to remember to mention this because whatever it is, like right there, that could be an opportunity to ask them a question, and then come back to what your train of thought was. And if you get nervous, just try to take a breath and keep going. So be honest and stay open to any of the possibilities. Maybe they're going to totally understand that, and just maintain that good eye contact to feel like you're giving them attention, and then just show your interest. So some closing interaction stuff you might want to consider is like having like that business card doesn't matter right now, but like an idea of how to leave a resume with them. So tell them like, can I email you my resume? That would be a great option right now for everything going virtually. And then thank the employer for their time. If you're talking to them on the camera or whatever platform, or if it's a chat, leave them a message, and then leave them with your contact information if you can. So make sure, if anything, you're using your student email, and write notes of that interaction, and then get to the next employer, right? So usually at the career fair, if you cannot make it to the interview, politely decline the employer's offer, ask for a business card, and ask the employer if you can get in touch with them to schedule for another time. Do not burn your bridges by signing up and then not showing up, and thank the employer for their time, Additionally, thank you emails or thank you letters or thank you messages on LinkedIn, that all works. And just remember to follow up. So a lot of people ask like, how soon until I should follow up? Really, it depends. Like if they told you what the deadline is and it's coming up that same week, follow up within that week. Or if you feel like 24 hours is enough, follow up because you want to ask more questions or gain more information, that's perfectly fine. If you feel like it's a long process because they told you like it might take a while, we have a lot of applicants, wait a week or two. And if you don't get a response, try to find another way or try to find another person that you can follow up with. And the things you need to do is to send employers those thank you notes, kind of just went over the timing, and then maintain professional contact updates every month with your network, and create an Excel sheet for what company, position, title, dates applied, and the follow-up dates that you had as well, so that you don't lose track of the process that you've been taking until you get that job, right? Another thing that I would say is, with those industry contacts that you attain, if you are writing down the emails of everybody, create a spreadsheet of names and people and where they work, what's their title, what do they do, like a short description of what they mentioned. And if you want to just network or maybe have a mentor in the future, also follow up with them on like LinkedIn or other platforms that where you can find them, or just send them a message or email them, and maintain those contacts, because one day they could be your colleague or boss or mentor, and or maybe even friend, and it's really great to just be able to network outside of a networking event. So big no-nos at the career fair are the lacking of knowledge of the organization or confusing the organization with a competitor. That would be really bad. So definitely do your research and take notes, and maybe put like a sticky note over that resume before you go into the conversation with them. And showing lack of enthusiasm or interest in the organization, even if you know you're not going to end up with that job, just smile, nod, and listen, and then move on. But don't just be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not interested, I'm going to leave now, because it seems very rude, So let them finish what they're saying. And then asking about salaries, like on the very first time that you speak with them, could also be like a turn off in a sense for them, because they want to make sure that you're interested about what you're going to be doing, not so much how much you're going to get paid, because there's always going to be room for growth or salary negotiations that will happen, but they're not going to happen before an interview. So make sure you first just focus on getting the interview. And grabbing free stuff or not making enough eye contact can also just be like, oh, this person's not really interested, or they're just here for the goodies. So if you also don't have anything with you to write with or on, it might also feel like to them like it's not going to be important enough for you. So that's why, even if it's virtual, like let them know like, oh, I'm just going to take notes, or I have a question here written down, let me just read it to you or something. That's fine. And then in person, it would be like giving a weak handshake could also be a big no-no, because you want to just share your confidence. And then not taking the time to fill out a job application, that's also like not a good look. But that's, of course, if it's in person, like if you're standing in front of the person and they hand it to you. Nowadays everything is digital and they tell you where to go look for it. So the only bad thing would be like if they tell you like, oh, I'm looking forward to your application, and then you never apply, and then like if you still have to talk to that person one day, or you're gonna see them again, like you should have just filled out the job application just in case, or finish it in time, because then if you're like asking for like an extension or whatever it is, it's gonna look really bad. So you want to start with logging into the fair as early as convenient to you, to have enough time to know what to expect, and which recruiters are going to be there. That's part of doing your research. Getting there before the recruiter, if anything, and being alert, attentive, being patient. And in person, you would anticipate like crowds and lines, wait your turn kind of thing. Remember why you're there. So what internship, what job it is that you're networking. It can be very exhausting, to be honest, if you haven't been in person to a networking event. If you're doing it right and you're like just narrowing yourself down to your options, that could be great. But if you're also just trying to like spread yourself everywhere and you spread yourself out too thin because you've talked to everyone in the room, it is going to be hard. So you want to be able to go where you need to go, and then if you have additional time, check out what else is around you, because you never know what's there, and then questions prepared beforehand. Now when it comes to the virtual platforms, I think you have to register in advance for the recruiter that you're going to be speaking to, so that helps you right off the bat know exactly where you're going and what to talk about. So if you're not familiar with a company, take the time to Google them ahead of time and make sure to follow through with any instructions given, such as applying. Of course, if it's like really not something you're going to be interested in, and they tell you like, oh yeah, go here and apply here, and you have other applications you're going to be doing, that's fine too. You don't have to apply to all of them. But hopefully, if it is one that you are interested in and you showed enough interest, go through with the motion of it. And then be confident and personable. And remember that the recruiters are people too, and they've been in your place. Sometimes they can be engineers that are recruiting you. So don't be intimidated too much, because everyone had to go through the learning process. Everyone started from zero. And even if they were students once upon a time, they probably also didn't have work experience. So don't be like ashamed to tell someone that that's the case. Just know how to present it so that it's not just, I don't have work experience, what am I going to do? It's, oh, I don't have work experience, but I have transferable skills. I have my volunteer, hours. I have my involvement, even if it's like your organizations, like you've done projects with them, you've socialized there, that's nice too. And always be on point and ready. So if you guys have any additional questions, we still have like 15 minutes. You guys can ask me now. And if anything, you can always email Joseph Juton, your career advisor at EC. His email is jjuton@fiu.edu. And if he can't get to it, he'll probably CC me and I can help.